There's a new feature coming in C# 11 that I think is going to save us all a gazillion keystrokes. Let's go take a look at raw string literals. If you've ever worked with strings in C# that contain template style text, something like if you wanted to contain a JSON object inside a string in C#, typically we would go and create a string and we would put our quotes around the string like that, and you can already see the problem there. We can't directly embed our JSON as we would want to. It's giving us all sorts of problems. What we actually have to do is go through and change all the quotes into double quotes, and when I replace that, then we get valid C# code. But that is such a pain. And also, we go and actually write that out to the console, what you can see is, although it's written out our string, it's actually taking notice of this extra carriage return here. So we get an extra line before our actual content. So the way that we have to get rid of that is we can't have any white space straight after the quotation, which then messes up our template and makes all our code look ugly. What we can do in C# 11 is we can change this slightly and we can use raw string literals. So the way that we do that is you designate a raw string literal with a number of quotes and you close it off with the same number of quotes that you started with. And now, as you can see, this is now giving us an error. Let's just put our JSON template back as it was. And let's go and undo what we did previously with the escaping. And so now we've got our copied in JSON as we would expect, in the format that we expect it, and C# is quite happy to actually write that out as we want. So when we run this up, we get the JSON printed out and there's no leading line space, even though we have an extra carriage return at the top of our string. This is exactly what we want so that we can copy and paste in templates. So there's a couple of things that we need to be aware of. If I go and put this on the same line, you'll see that Visual Studio starts complaining about it. So the closing quotes have to be on their own line. And also if I go and indent that further, then you'll see that Visual Studio also complains because the closing quotes have to be aligned with the leftmost content that you want. So just a couple of gotchas to be aware of around these raw string literals. What we can also do is, as you can see, our code at the moment is left aligned right across in the editor. What if our code was further indented, for instance? So if we had some other arbitrary code, just indent that across, but we also wanted to indent our string literal with that. So, and we'll indent the console line. So we've now got some code that is aligned. It's not leftmost in the editor. Now when we run this up, we actually see exactly the same output before, even though we've indented the string literal across. So this means that we can now actually indent the code and make our, we're not sacrificing how our code looks for the output that we actually want to produce, or how this string is actually treated. But we can take advantage of that white space quite easily. So if I remove that and put the quotes right at the root of the document, or even, you know, indented one level, C# takes notice of where these closing quotes actually are, and it will now indent everything that much across. So when we now run this version up, what we'll see is the JSON template will actually be indented in the output by the number of spaces that we have between the closing quote and the actual content in the string. So it means that we can take advantage and we can set the level of white space that we actually have. So if we consider a different example, let's take the message body of an email, for instance, instead of a JSON template, to give you a different example. So let's just get rid of that and replace it with this. So we've now got an email HTML body, and as you can see, we're just pasting in some HTML. So this means that you could format your email HTML up in some external editor, paste it straight into Visual Studio, and you're good to go. You don't have to do any escaping anymore around all these quotes inside your styles and your HTML attributes, etc., etc. So this is great. This is going to save us a bucket load of time. And so if we actually want to embed some quotes, so if I want to say that I want that to be actually quoted in the HTML, then it's quite fine with that. If I want more than that, so say I want 3 quotes in there, then Visual Studio starts complaining. But what we can do is, as long as we have more quotes at the top and at the bottom to delimit the string than we actually have inside the string, so I can go and put 5 quotes in here and 5 quotes in there, and if Visual Studio wasn't trying to help me, it now thinks that is perfectly valid, and so we can still run this up as we would expect, and we'll see the 3 quotes around the main text as we would hope and expect. So we're not limited in terms of how many quotes we can copy and paste in. We just have to make sure that the delimiter has the right amount or more than the actual content contained within the string. So what about string interpolation? So if I paste in some content, what we can do with the string interpolation is we can indicate that we want the string to be string interpolated, and straight away you can see, because I've got curly braces embedded in there, it's given me a problem. So for now, I'm just going to take that out, and what we can do in here is do our normal string interpolation as we would expect, and everything's happy. So when we run this up, we will get name injected into this content here. So we can see my name has been injected into that string interpolated string. So how do we get around if we want embedded curly braces? So if I go and paste that body back in, so the way it works is you can put another $, at the top here, and then curly braces are then deemed as part of the actual string. And to do an actual string interpolation, you have to go and make it a double brace, so the number of braces match the number of $, that you have at the top is what this is indicating. So it means we can still copy in all our boilerplate text, and the only places where we need to do the actual injected fields is the places where we need the double curly braces. So it means we're still not having to escape the actual string literal itself. So the bulk of the content stays exactly as we want, and we're only changing the parts where we actually need to change them. And now when we run this up, we get our full HTML body with curly braces in it and the injected string interpolated field. So that's what's coming in C#11. Something to look forward to, and something I think we should all make good use of. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you like this, then feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.